Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Essential Wellness series. We are, wrapping up the last one of the season. It's so exciting to have Kate in our last presentation of the year. And I want to thank all of you so much for joining us live. It's great to have an audience on the other side, even though we can't see you. We know that you're there, and we really appreciate you joining us live. We have a really powerful presentation. Kate has an amazing story. It's so inspiring, and she has so much information to share. So I'm going to just go ahead and introduce her, and we're just going to get to it. I met Kate about 5 years ago at actually the second essential oil class that I ever taught in my life. And I know that we got her attention because of the 5 ml dram bottles and the cap stickers, not because of the essential oils. I love that story because Kate then began to grow as a leader and is currently a doTERRA Diamond and leads an amazing team. We have become good friends, and I adore her, and I am so grateful to have her in my life. She lives in Portland with her lovely family, her husband, and her 2 boys. And she has a really powerful and touching story, and I'm really grateful that she's willing to share it with us. This is actually kind of the first time, minus the live presentation we did on Monday, that she's sharing the entirety of her story publicly. And it takes a lot of courage to do that. So I really appreciate you, Kate, and having that willingness to share, because I know that can be so inspiring and give hope to so many others along their journey of healing. So I'm going to turn my camera and my sound off and pass the presentation over to Kate.
Thank you so much, Aisha. I'm so deeply grateful for you, your friendship and leadership, and also that you were brave enough to teach that class way back when. And I think about that often, and how sometimes the things that we experience in life, we don't know what it's going to turn into. We don't know what gifts it's going to bring us. And sometimes even small things turn into something huge and life-changing. So I really appreciate your presence in my life. And I'm really grateful for those of you that are here live on this call. I'm sitting here in my office at home, and I can't see you, so it's a little funny. I am speaking to my slides, basically, so forgive me if I'm missing any facial expressions, but I appreciate those of you that are here live listening, and also those that hop on to our recorded version and perhaps watch this as a recorded webinar. So I appreciate you being here, and let's get started. So this first poem, this is by, he's actually a new favorite of mine. He goes by the name of Young Pueblo, and I just love this. True power is living the realization that you are your own healer, hero, and leader. And this, when I saw this, when I was sort of finishing up my presentation, when I was preparing, and it just felt like it captured exactly a message that I want you to take from this. So we'll be talking about a lot of things, but it's really important for me to share that it is this experience of finding yourself as your own healer and hero, and that journey. I'm going to be talking a lot today about sort of a healing journey and a process that we can go through to find health and wellness. And this is what it's all about. So welcome. And if you didn't know already, you are here for a reason. Perhaps you felt called to listen to this webinar because you are experiencing either pain, inflammation, autoimmune conditions, or chronic disease. Or maybe you have a friend or family member who is struggling with that. But really, either way, I really believe that there's something here for everyone. And so I am thankful that you are here, and I hope that you find things that are valuable specifically for you. And I think that you're going to find some nuggets here. Number two, in case you don't know me in real life or didn't hear in my introduction, I am not a doctor. So I do want to be clear that I am not a nurse or a doctor or a naturopath. I really am sharing my personal experience, my expertise in working with people in this field, but not as a doctor. So I do want to make sure that that's clear. And then another really important piece is to recognize that you really are the expert of your own body. You are most likely going to rely upon a field of resources and other experts that maybe have opinions and valuable wisdom to share. But in the end, you are the expert of your own body, and everybody's experience in life is going to be different. So what works for one person may not be exactly what works for somebody else, but I still feel positive that what I share today is going to be helpful for you. So welcome. Okay, so first I want to start by looking at the big picture of health. So I'd like to call your attention to, on the slide, the quote from Dr. Mark Hyman, who is somebody that I really love to follow. He is kind of an expert in terms of focusing on functional medicine and lifestyle changes for chronic diseases. And this quote says, "I believe that health is more than merely the absence of disease. It is a total state of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and social well-being." And I just love that as a reminder and a setting point that this is a big picture in terms of health. So I want to kind of step out of maybe a health model view of a disease and a cure, or a disease and a pharmaceutical Band-Aid, and really look at the bigger picture of our health and well-being, because I believe that they're all connected. Okay, so let's talk about chronic illness. We are in a crisis of chronic disease in our country, as well as most of the world. And I have a few statistics that I want to share. This is pretty new statistics, although you may be familiar with some of this. But to understand how big this issue is of chronic illness, 1 in 2, and I believe this is in America, but 1 in 2 Americans have a chronic disease. That's huge. And 1 in 4 have multiple. So something that I'm going to be talking about is how when we are sick, we often get more sick, right? So 1 in 4 have multiple chronic diseases. 1 in 3 kids, 1 in 3 children have a chronic disease. And this is heartbreaking. This is the first generation that is expected to have a shorter lifespan, sorry, completely forgetting my words, lifespan than their parents. And it is heartbreaking that we are in this space. And so chronic disease is a really big issue. And the thing to be clear about chronic disease is it's not something that you're diagnosed with and then there's an easy fix. There's a cure or a pill that you can take. The issue with chronic disease is it's chronic. It is ongoing, and in most cases there is no cure or fix. And so it is lifelong in terms of somebody generally having a lifelong struggle with their health. So it's a really painful situation. And another thing that I'd like to remind us is this is not normal. Our bodies are meant to be healthy, and this is not, I think we've almost become so desensitized to people feeling bad and feeling sick and having chronic health issues that we almost don't even notice it at this point. It's just a given that we all have something we need prescriptions for. We all have a certain amount of issues and diseases, and that's actually not normal for the human body. So looking at this first slide that I've created, do you know of anyone who's not struggling with these issues? So digestive health, food sensitivities, sleep issues, aches and pains, low energy. This is something I like to call out because I think it's very often that people just assume that it's natural to feel bad and run down all the time, and it's not. Stress and mental health issues, hormone issues for both men and women, weight and inflammation, and I put those together because I do believe that they're deeply tied. I believe that most of us, when we are carrying excess weight, we more than likely have an inflammatory condition going on in our body. And then also just constant complaints, headaches, getting sick often, sinus issues. So none of these are a diagnosis or diagnostic tool to say, if you have these, you have a chronic illness. However, it's to set the stage of recognizing these are the basic symptoms of many of our chronic illnesses, and most of us struggle with these. So this is just something to sort of think about and look around. I feel like often in my world, when I look around, we see that people are more often sick than not sick. And again, that's not normal. So one of the chronic diseases that I will be focusing on tonight is autoimmune. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what autoimmune disease is. Now, again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to present, a textbook definition, but some basics is that it's a huge issue. It's estimated that 50 million, about 1 in 6 in America, have an autoimmune disease. Then looking at how long it takes to be diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. Often it takes up to 10 years after the onset of symptoms. And this is actually what I experienced, having pain and symptoms of a disease that wasn't diagnosed for about 10 years. So when you couple those statistics together, what you also come to realize is that it's a much larger issue because you have many people walking around not knowing that they have an autoimmune disease. So having issues and struggling with the symptoms, but not having an awareness that they might want to focus on health changes and health choices that might help with an autoimmune disease. Another thing about autoimmune disease is it's not one specific disease, it's actually many, and there are over 100 types that make up the autoimmune disease category. And many overlap. It's quite common if you have one autoimmune disease that you will have others. So I would like to read off just the most common autoimmune conditions because most likely you've heard of these or have some familiarity with them. So common types of autoimmune, the first would be type 1 diabetes. That is where the body is attacking the pancreas. We have rheumatoid arthritis, where the body is attacking the joints. Psoriasis, the body is attacking skin and joints. Psoriatic arthritis is another one. Multiple sclerosis, body attacking the nervous system. Lupus, where the body is attacking joints, skin, and organs. Inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's, colitis, those are all attacking the GI tract. Addison's, which is the body attacking adrenal glands. And Graves' and Hashimoto's, which are where the body is attacking the thyroid. And so if you heard in those descriptions, it is an experience of the body attacking itself. So the immune system in your body is actually fighting itself and you're attacking your own healthy body system. And I like to sort of generalize and describe it as a house on fire, right? So it's basically, if you think of your body as a house, we have a fireplace. Our immune system is really important, right, at heating up our body and fighting off the bad health experiences. However, when it gets out of control, then you have the house on fire. And that is an autoimmune condition where the body is basically at war with itself. There is no cure for autoimmune diseases. In general, autoimmune disease is a condition that is managed, most often managed by anti-inflammatories, painkillers, and then immunosuppressant drugs. And so those are generally the pharmaceutical path that one would take with an autoimmune disease. And what I'll be presenting today, of course, is going to be something quite different. And the goal, from a mainstream model, the goal is to manage that inflammation and sort of quiet down the inflammation and the damage that that's causing in your body. And so that's what we want to do. We want to find a way to pull back this body at war with itself. So I'd love to share my story and my experience with autoimmune disease. It actually starts well before the time when I started having the symptoms of my autoimmune disease. So I really believe that our health is a sort of a culmination or an expression of many things, but including our emotional and physical experiences in life, all the way back to childhood. Of course, also including genetics and our family history, right? And then the environment that we're in, all of those sort of come together to present as the way we experience health in our body. So when I was creating this presentation, of course, it was important for me to go back in time and look at when I wasn't happy and healthy, and what did that look like? And so I went through my computer and all my photos, and, of course, these photos come from a time before iPhones and selfies, but what was really one of the first things that I wanted to share was just how I could see this experience, because I couldn't find photos of myself. I went through thousands and thousands of photos of my family and my kids and my cats and dogs and vacations and my husband, and very few photos of myself. And it was because I had already started this experience of being at war with myself and deleting myself from my life. So that was a really painful realization. And looking back, it was very clear to me that I was already experiencing some of these diseased states before I was diagnosed. So I want to share a little bit, just going all the way back, because I mentioned family history is important in terms of understanding your health. I have a family history, like many do, that includes quite a bit of depression and mental health issues, addiction, and suicide. I also do have rheumatoid arthritis in my history. My grandmother had rheumatoid arthritis, and she died when I was 5, and honestly, my biggest memory of her is her illness. I just remember she had crumpled hands, and she was very physically ill from her rheumatoid arthritis, and that's what I remember most about her, sadly. And so looking back, even at my childhood, my mother died when I was 11, and that, of course, was a very large, substantial emotional trauma and shock. And what that created was the pathway that, began in terms of depression. And most of my childhood was pretty heavy and depressed. I would say I was sort of in survival mode in terms of just getting by and getting out. And I left home very early. Years of depression. I remember being in college and having anxiety and panic attacks. And, in my early 20s, already some of that depression presented in terms of being at war with my body, in terms of body image and self-hatred. And so I went from being anorexic and taking diet drugs, which is horrible, And, hating myself, hating my body, and not having a healthy experience in life. And then all of those years of depression, then swinging into obesity. I also spent 10 years on antidepressants and Zoloft. So quite familiar with how emotional and mental health impacts our physical experience as well. So after spending my 20s on antidepressants and having lots of physical manifestations, I started to have a little bit of pain in my lower back and my spine, but just little bits here and there. And then decided to have children, and I had my first child and had some unexpected birth trauma and an unexpected C-section. So more sort of physical things building up in my body. And then in those years with my young babies, my two boys, as we all know, parenthood and early motherhood can be very stressful and hard on the body. And I was really falling in terms of mental health and my physical health as well. So I started experiencing a lot of pain, mostly in my lower back and my spine and my knee. I would often get, I would go to a chiropractor, I'd get diagnosed with sciatica. And this was an occasional sort of flare-up thing, but then it became more chronic and ongoing. And it became such that I was most often in a state of pain, usually in my back. And it limited my mobility quite a bit. I was taking anti-inflammatories to deal with it and was just really frustrated. Pain is so emotionally tied in the way that it colors your existence. And it really affected the way that I was parenting and showing up as a mother. It was very hard to, have that challenge parenting young children and be in pain at the same time. That pain grew, and I was most often in pain. It was very hard to walk, to move, which was ridiculous because I was very young and should have been healthy. It was painful to get up. It was painful to sit down. It was painful to sleep at night. It was painful to lie in bed and I would wake up in pain and need to move my body, and it would be excruciating. It also sometimes hurt to breathe. Just expanding my lungs and breathing became painful. And I was afraid when if I sneezed that I would break a rib. So all of my spine and rib cage, just a lot of pain. And it was unexplained. It was just kind of I don't know. At that point, I didn't know that it was an autoimmune disease. So at one point in 2010 here in Portland, my knee blew up. I hadn't had an injury. And when I went to the doctor, they took out the fluid, and the doctor came back and he said, "You're going to need to go to a rheumatologist because you have antibodies in your fluid here. So that is indicating an autoimmune arthritis condition." And I remember just, I knew that wasn't a death sentence, but I felt like it was. I remember tying that to my grandmother and knowing enough about that health condition that it just crushed me, because I saw it as the end. I mean, I knew that I would live my life, but what I saw at that point is that I felt like I would never feel better. I would never lose the pain. And in fact, I was very afraid of how I would feel more and more pain and be more and more disabled by the pain. I remember making a decision not to have more children because I was too afraid of what that would do to my body. And I didn't know if I would be capable of, walking around and moving my body. So it was a very fearful and hopeless point in my life. I went to the rheumatologist. It's a pretty, frustrating diagnostic situation. You know, they look at your symptoms and timing and lab results. And so I was given a diagnosis of seronegative spondylitis. And I had markers for lupus. So I was basically told, you don't have lupus now, but you probably will have it. And I also had antibodies for my thyroid. So that indicates Hashimoto's. So in that situation, I was given a prescription for prescription strength anti-inflammatory painkillers. I was already a little bit of a hippie, you know, being a mom in Portland, and I didn't want to be taking any pharmaceuticals, let alone taking something like that on an ongoing basis. I knew it wasn't, you know, that sort of thing is not bad for you if you're using it on rare occasion. But if you're told you're going to take it for the rest of your life, it's scary. It's not good for your liver or your gut. I was told that I would be basically coming back on a regular basis, and they would watch for damaging progress and give me more and more drugs. I was crushed by that, very upset, and, you know, still in pain. Those medications just band-aided the pain. They didn't actually make it go away. As I mentioned, I was already geared towards natural health, and so I did quite a bit of research and looking at how I might change my food and diet and take supplements, and to see how that would affect me and having autoimmune arthritis. And I remember asking the rheumatologist, you know, should I change my diet? Which supplements should I take? And, you know, at that point, he said, well, you could do whatever you want, but there's no studies that show that that helps. So I share that really to just show that there was not a lot of hope or suggestions being given to me that I could change how I felt, besides the Band-Aid of the pain medication, which I had already seen wasn't helping. I took it because it was all I had, but it's not like it took away the condition. So I felt broken, and I felt hopeless, and I felt this huge sense of anger and frustration in terms of trying everything and not finding the answers. I was very driven to try all sorts of alternative treatments, and nothing was helping. And so that's when I went to an essential oil class. And what I feel is really important to share with you is there is not a cell in my body that believed when I went to this essential oil class that these would help me. Based on the experience that I had had and things that I had read, I was very skeptical. And I just thought it would be some fun distraction. I thought it would be something nice because I liked natural things to use with my family. But I didn't think that it would help my autoimmune condition in any way. But thankfully, I liked those stickers and the little bottles. And so I got started with doTERRA. I started using the essential oils. I loved them, of course. I fell in love with them. And for me, as I'll discuss later in my presentation, the thing that really changed my life was the supplements. But I believe it's all things coming together. But there was a turning point when I started using the supplements and all of the lifestyle changes that I had been working on and really sticking to. I, for the first time in my life, started to experience less and less pain and inflammation. I started to taper off the 6 to 7 prescription Aleve that I was taking every single day. I no longer needed to go in to have fluid removed from my knees or to have cortisone shots. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't, like a super quick turnaround, but I would say within maybe 6 months, I started really seeing a difference. And it's now been years. I have no symptoms of the illnesses. I do get my blood labs done, and I have no markers anymore, no antibodies in my body, and it's been years. the last time I went to a rheumatologist, they told me they wouldn't diagnose me with these conditions if I came in today with my body and lab results. I don't feel painful. I don't have anything that's outside of the normal experience. And I actually feel amazing. And I don't take any of those anti-inflammatories anymore. And so what I want to show you today is the things that I think have helped me find this pathway to recovery. And so here are some current pictures of me. If you don't know me in real life, I feel amazing. And, I'm just a normal person. I get cramps. I get sick every once in a great while, but I have an exceptionally healthy body experience that I am thankful for every single day. And this last picture over here on the left, of course, is Wonder Woman. And yes, it's not me, but it is me, because it actually, that I feel more than better. I feel more than amazing on most days of my life. And I'm amazed by it all the time. So that is my story. And I'd like to share with you now this pathway to health. Again, it's not a prescription cure, but it's a pathway that I think will take you from whatever health state you're in that is somewhat of a struggle into something that is a little bit better or far better, or in my case, perhaps complete recovery and very strong health. So I want to call your attention to this quote because I think this is important to understand. Essential oils aren't a cure. They're a catalyst for change. So the things that I'll be showing you today are really tools that I consider to be a catalyst for change, and they work together. It's sort of a compound effect of all of the good pushing out the bad, if that makes sense. So the first thing I want to show is on the right side of the screen. This is helpful to visualize what I see as a lifestyle change as well as self-directed healthcare. And it's very simple, but these categories are a great way to sort of think of the pathway. If you have a piece of paper, or you might want to come back to this later, a great thing to do is to rate yourself on each of the categories from 1 to 10, because it can help you create a blueprint or a map as to, how you want to change where you are today and how you feel in your body to a healthier state. So we're going to talk about nutrition, this first category on the bottom. We're going to talk about exercise and movement, rest and sleep and managing stress, and then reducing toxic load. So these are all lifestyle changes, which, I think everybody's starting to get clued into how important this is. Lifestyle changes they're actually the only answer for most of our chronic illnesses and diseases. And the thing that is difficult is we're pretty hardwired in our choices, our culture. It's very easy to make poor choices. And so these lifestyle changes are difficult, and they take time to change. And it's not actually something that a doctor can guide you through. So as we walk through this, I want you to think about how this is where you become the expert and the driving force in your health. This becomes you self-directing your healthcare. The top two, informed self-care and proactive medical care. What I'd like to say about that is start to think of your medical care and in a different view. So if you think of it as a model as you go to the doctor tells you about your body and then cures you or fixes you, I'd like you to open it up to think about, first of all, having a team of practitioners, a team that is made up of more than doctors. That could be if you're into alternative treatments like chiropractors or self-care and kind of nourishing treatments. Also just having a variety of opinion. I think it's really great to go to naturopaths and people that are looking at the body on a functional medicine basis, sort of a holistic view, and having yourself at the top of that team, because you are going to, in fact, be the person that directs this. So taking in all of your guides and resources, but starting to see yourself as the one who is empowered here. So that's what I mean by self-directed healthcare. It's a lifestyle makeover, as we just talked about. And that's a really big thing. Again, it can kind of seem maybe small or slight because it's definitely something you see maybe like on a magazine cover, but it really is the answer. Step by step, you can't make all of these changes at once. It's going to take time and patience. And what I really firmly believe is that the results that you find are going to be a compound effect. So I don't think you'll be able to pinpoint it was this one thing that I did that helped me become healthier. It's usually multiple things together. And I really mean this at the bottom, that this is how you will change your life. So the first place I like to say we're going to start here is nutrition and food and gut health. This is perhaps one of the most difficult parts of lifestyle changes for us in our culture. However, I think it is the place where people tend to find the most results, and it's really important. Good nutrition is so key, not just to our our weight and our physical body in terms of our weight and our size, but I want you to think about nutrition in terms of our cells, and in terms of our cells having optimal nutrition so that every part of our body, every cell in our body can do what it's meant to do, and to find homeostasis and balance and optimal health, because all of that is where the healing takes place. The first thing I mentioned here is an elimination diet. There are many resources out there, but I do think it's important if you're having inflammation, pain, and or an autoimmune disease or chronic disease. I think it can be really helpful to do an elimination diet, a few or one or two, because what that can do is help pull out if you do have any food sensitivities or anything that's triggering extra inflammation in your body. It's sort of the first place where you can start to almost be your own lab rat and biohack some new health. Those are some terms that people often use with food changes, but you might find that if you take certain food groups out of your diet and start leaning on healthier foods, that a lot of these pieces fall away. Many will find that this is the turning point, and that the chronic diseases that they had start falling off. Literally falling off their body if it's weight, but also just disappearing. So my personal favorite, and the one that I used, was called Whole30. That's just a elimination diet food plan that just, for me, it was a helpful way to take out all these food groups. And I did a few different types of these, but you take them out, you see how you feel, and then at the end, you reintroduce these foods and you test to see if you see any reactions in your body. So you'll have to do your own research on this, but I do recommend it. You can go and get food testing, sensitivity testing, but there's a lot of false negatives, false positives, and so you probably need to try changing your diet. I also want to say that there's no one right type of diet. Of course, there's tons of articles out there pushing certain types. I personally had a lot of luck with more of a paleo food plan, but some people go vegan, some people do raw. Experiment. In general, what you're going to find is it's a diet that takes away processed food, perhaps certain food groups that can be, that are generally known as top sensitive food groups. It'll often take away a lot of sugar, which is a super monster when it comes to inflammation and pain. And what it does is helps you align with healthy, good nutrition first. So one of my tips would be to think about, when you're creating your plate and your food, that you think about, what are the best things I can put in my body? What is the most nutritious choice that I can make? And maybe that's some big salads, a good amount of protein, some healthy fats. Start to think a little bit less about demonizing food and what's bad, because that can be really overwhelming for the brain and hard to do, and start thinking about putting the good food first. It'll crowd out the bad choices. And then the other thing is, regardless of, what food plan you take, be aware that you need to find something that you can stick with forever. Sorry to say, but I actually believe mostly forever. Multiple years, perhaps 3 years at least. So, an elimination diet is very extreme, and then you open it up to a very clean diet, and you want to stick to that as long as you can. So I have mostly stayed on the same, what I consider to be anti-inflammatory food choices, and forever, and I intend to stick with it. It's important to get past that honeymoon stage, because you need to get to a point where the foods that you're picking are easy, and you know how to cook, and you know where to find them, and it's not a struggle anymore. The most important thing I want to call out to you on this slide is Lifelong Vitality Supplement for life, forever. Don't miss an order. So if you're new to essential oils or doTERRA, you may not be familiar with what is often called LLV, but that is the 3 bottles here in the picture, and that is a supplement program. It's a 30-day 3-bottle pack, and it is groundbreaking. I never believed that supplements would actually make this much of a difference, because for years I had been adding in like really expensive vitamins from my naturopath, going to the health food store and buying everything that I could find. And I didn't have an experience where I felt like it was working until I tried these vitamins. And for me, most of these lifestyle changes that I'm going to talk about, those were things I did before I went to this essential oil class. So I had already kind of instituted a lot of these food changes. And while I was seeing progress and sticking to it, I still had my pain and inflammation. When I added in the vitamins, this was what, at that point in time, I started tapering off my anti-inflammatories. And I've even had, you guys, at least two experiences where I forgot to order. So I went off my vitamins for about a week, and I thought it wouldn't be a big deal. And both times my knee joint blew up with fluid, and I had to go back and get fluid removed and cortisone shot. And so, the first time that happened, I just thought maybe it was a coincidence. But the second time it happened, I decided these vitamins are no joke. They're obviously keeping me in an anti-inflammatory state, and I need to be consistent about taking them. So if you're not familiar with them already, I highly recommend, we have another recorded webinar that really dives into each of these supplements and the individual ingredients and why they're so helpful for your body. But the basics is that this is a food nutrient complex. It is highly bioavailable, which means your body is actually going to use the nutrients. One of the issues with supplements is often your body doesn't use them. It has tons of omegas and anti-inflammatory supplements. And there's also a cellular health blend, which is high in antioxidants. And all of these ingredients together, I just think the synergy of the essential oils in these and the supplement micronutrients are just fantastic, and I don't think there's anything comparable. These are a must for anybody, no matter what if you have a health issue or not. They are so powerful, and so many people experience really drastic changes in their health and their energy levels. So those are number one for me. Now, other things in terms of supportive nutrition and gut health, I like to use Terrazyme, which is digestive enzymes. I lean on probiotics. I use doTERRA's PB Assist. And then Zendocrine, which is a really cool supplement that has herbals supporting our detoxification system. So I use all of these supplements on a daily basis. I never skip taking my supplements. I think they are foundational and the key piece to my health recovery. I think I take them very seriously. And that's because of how much of a difference they've made for me. So I really recommend those. I personally recommend, I love a protein shake. I don't actually use it as a meal replacement, but as a way to get extra good protein and nutrition into my body so that I don't maybe snack on sugary things so much. Terra Greens is a green powder supplement, and I mix that in my protein shake. So this is how, when I mentioned like thinking about putting good things into your body to crowd out the bad, all of these nutritional supplements and coupling that with whole, real foods, right? Real fruits and vegetables, low processed to no processed food is so key and important. After 3 months, I like to do a cleanse, and we'll talk about that later in the presentation. And then there are also these really cool essential oils in terms of supporting your digestion, and especially how I like to use them is to help with sugar cravings and appetite suppressant and cleansing the body. So these are some of my favorites, are using peppermint, all of the citrus, so lemon and orange and grapefruit. These are fantastic, and you can use these internally. You can use these in water, which I'm going to take a sip of water because that's one of the things I love. I'm a big fan of Slim and Sassy, which is our metabolic blend. So many essential oils in there are helpful for, again, supporting maybe healthier choices with your food in terms of sugar cravings and also your metabolism. DigestZen is a digestive, supportive essential oil blend. And Zendocrine is the cleansing blend. And again, I think it is helpful to focus on nutritional and essential oil supplements that can help your body just stay on track in terms of processing the food and nutrition that you're putting into it. It's not just about what you eat, it's what your body does with what you eat, right? It's about absorbing the good nutrients. It's about quickly processing and getting out the junk. And focusing on food and gut health is so important for so many reasons. But another thing to keep in mind is that 70% of your serotonin is the happy brain, antidepressive, that is created in your gut. So focusing, when we have mental health issues and struggles, we need to focus on our gut health. And our gut is also where our immune system lives. So I think it's kind of the foundation and the most important place to pay attention in terms of your lifestyle changes. Okay, so the next category that I want to talk about is movement and body activity. Lifelong Vitality, that's LLV, to help you move. So when I was in a lot of pain, I could not move or do exercise programs without taking my Aleve, my anti-inflammatories. It was a prescription name, but that type of anti-inflammatory. As I was able to let go of that and not need it, what I found was that the Lifelong Vitality was what was supporting my body in terms of not having pain that would get in the way of creating movement in my daily life. And movement is so important. I really want to invite you to get rid of the idea of exercise as a burning calorie type of calculation. Think about how our bodies are meant to move. Our bodies are meant to lift weight and do actions. And of course, our culture and lifestyle depletes that. So we need to actively create situations where our body is moving. Our body is dancing. I put this up here, let your cells dance, because you want to do something that's like shaking up your body. I think it's also important to do something that is fun. If you can ditch this idea of exercise as being, it's work, I don't like it, it's painful, or I'm just doing it to sweat and burn calories, start thinking about it as a way to boost your energy and to fix your emotions, to feel happy and connected. I know one of the things that I loved years ago was doing nightclub Zumba, and I mentioned this just because it was so silly and it was embarrassing, but there was something about it that was fun, and it really changed the way I viewed exercise. Right now I'm loving strength training and lifting like really heavy weights, right? So you can try out different things, but find ways, even if it's walking and that's your jam, that's the thing that feels good in your life, but finding ways to fit it in on a daily basis. If you have any muscle aches or pains or joint issues, you're going to want to use Deep Blue essential oil and Deep Blue rub. You can use that after you've exercised to support that like soreness. You can also use it pre-exercise. Be aware it's a little icy hot when you're sweating. Deep Blue polyphenol complex is another favorite of mine. That is an internal supplement that uses, it is full of these really great anti-inflammatory nutrients, and it can basically replace like a anti-inflammatory. Mito 2 Max is an energy and mitochondria booster. It is a cellular health and cellular energy supplement. It's not caffeine. It's really powerful. And so those are two that I include in the movement section because I think of them as helping me stay active and high energy throughout the day. My friend Jen made this picture, which I totally love because I love Iron Man, but taking Lifelong Vitality Pack, you will be like Iron Man. So this is a category I think is important. And you know, I want to say it is difficult when you have pain to make changes in this space because it hurts to move. And so that's why I, hope that I included some things that maybe help shift out of that painful experience when it comes to moving your body. Sleep is so important. You guys, everybody needs at least 8 hours a night, maybe more. I think I can use more than 8 hours at night. Sleeping and resting and having enough calm, restful moments are really important for your body, for healing, and for your mental health. I like to use sleep and calming oils. Serenity Blend is a great one. Lavender. And then I really love the wood oils. So vetiver and cedarwood, Balance Blend. These are all some of my favorites, but what I love to do is set up my diffuser at night, really take sleep, take it, create like a ritual about sleep and make it an important part of your day. It's nice to make the bedroom just about sleep, so taking screens out, using essential oils for your bedtime routine is really helpful. I also think it's really powerful to use essential oils to help repattern your emotions and support you on an emotional level. We have a fantastic book which is called Emotional Healing with Essential Oils. And it's one of my favorite ways of using the essential oils is sort of tapping into how they can support my emotions and how I feel in my body. And, one of the things that's great about that is when you think about if you have essential oils already in your life, you probably are familiar with this experience, but you have something that feels bad in your body, and maybe that's a physical experience or an emotional or stress. And you think, okay, what oil should I use? And you look at your collection, your bag of oils, and you grab one, and you take a moment to put a drop in your hand and take a deep breath. Maybe you take some time and give yourself like a neck massage, or put some on the bottom of your feet, or addressing the physical issue that you have, setting up your diffuser. All of these sensory experiences, that pattern, that ritual that you've just taken, is repatterning your reaction to the experience that you're having. So especially if you're thinking about pain, it's helping you to create new neural pathways for that pain experience. And it's also sending this consistent message of self-love, and that you are important and worthy of having this healthy experience in your life. And that is something that I love about the essential oils. And it's something that I think maybe doesn't make sense because we're so used to a model where we're given a prescription to fix us. And I love using this sort of self-empowered little daily rituals using the essential oils that help us just get anchored and remind ourselves of feeling better and how we want to feel, and taking those moments for ourselves. I just think it's such a shift, and it may seem small and inconsequential, but I think it creates really big change. So the cleanse section of lifestyle changes is basically replacing toxins in your life, replacing synthetic toxic chemicals, things that surround our everyday life in our home, out in the world, that frankly, they're dangerous. So I put here, replacing your medicine cabinet. You can use doTERRA essential oils and supplements and basically replace your entire medicine cabinet. It's going to help you deal with like 90% of your common health issues. And you're just not going to need some of those over-the-counter synthetic yucky things. You're able to remove the environmental triggers. A lot of household and body care ingredients trigger inflammation and autoimmune responses in our body. And so you can replace those with healthy versions, and they could be, cleaners. They could be cleaner body care products. It could be DIY or something that you're purchasing that includes essential oils. One of my most important things, I think, is ditching your shitty vitamins and dirty cleaners and replacing them with doTERRA's Lifelong Vitality, which is a clean and super effective supplement line, and replacing, your bathroom cleaner, your kitchen cleaner with On Guard cleaning products. Like, it totally works. I love being able to switch out. My family, we don't use antibacterial anything, really, because I don't think that's good for your body, your natural bacterial flora, but we don't have those antibacterial soaps. We use On Guard foamy hand soap, and it's safe and it's effective and it smells great. We've replaced, the toxins in toothpaste. It's not that great. I love using the On Guard toothpaste. The skincare, I love that you can get rid of skincare that has ingredients that's just not good for you. Even the ones that sometimes are prescribed as like safe and basic, a lot of them they have ingredients that you shouldn't be putting on your body. And so I love being able to use the Virage skincare, or even making something. It's just such a great way to take away things that might be environmental triggers and replace them with something that's healthy. As I mentioned, I really lean on using On Guard and the On Guard products as a way to boost natural immunity so that my immune system is strong and I don't need to use something that's going to mess it up. And the doTERRA Cleanse Protocol, I didn't include it here because I think actually it might even be another webinar that dives really deep into, which pieces you take at which times and how they work. But basically, doTERRA has a really easy cleanse, a liver and gut cleanse program that is very safe and easy for people to use. And I think if you've taken the Lifelong Vitality supplements and started to make some of these changes with healthier foods, then it's a great idea to do the cleanse. Lastly, some of my favorite essential oils. So I expect that if you have essential oils, you may already have the sort of the top 10. And if you're just getting started, everybody needs the top 10, right? Because these are the oils that are going to handle most of your issues and complaints and kind of be your daily tools that you use for yourself and your family. But I also wanted to include some of the more unique essential oils and blends that I use specifically kind of in mind with my autoimmune conditions. And those are DDR Prime. And that asterisk there is to mention that DDR Prime is an essential oil in a bottle. It's a blend. However, it's also a supplement that you can take internally. And I think it's really powerful and an important part of everybody's protocol, but especially if you have autoimmune conditions or a chronic illness. Frankincense and copaiba are natural anti-inflammatories. They're very powerful. You can use them topically and aromatically, but you might use them internally, a drop or two under the tongue throughout the day. Deep Blue Blend and Aroma Touch Blend are two of my favorite pain, inflammation, sore muscles, joints. I mean, I used to live on Deep Blue. I needed a family member to put Deep Blue on my back before I could breathe and get out of bed in the morning. Like every morning. It's a basic that is so powerful in terms of helping with that, experience of pain and just that feeling. Aroma Touch can be helpful too. It's the massage blend. And the reason why I wanted to add that here is it includes essential oils that are great at fluid removal. And so when you think of inflammation in terms of how it's creating this fluid around joints and areas of your body, Aroma Touch can help release that with cypress and grapefruit. It's a powerful blend. Clary Calm is the hormonal support blend. I love this one. Hormones are so important to your overall health. And I often use this as a daily deodorant. So that's a great way where you can ditch toxic deodorant. Nobody needs toxic antiperspirants in their life, I promise you. You'll go through a little bit of a cleanse shift as you shift into using something that's more natural, but I like to use essential oils as my deodorant. And it works. Wintergreen, lemongrass, helichrysum, and blue tansy. These are all oils that I love to use anytime, if you have a inflammatory condition or a back issue. These are all just really great oils to use topically. I love wintergreen. Lemongrass is really great for joints like wrists. If you have wrist pain, lemongrass can be great. Knees. Helichrysum is the oil for pain. Blue tansy is a new one. So those are all just a few recommendations that I really like. And I also want to mention, there's no wrong choice when you pick an oil. Getting back to the concept of becoming empowered and your own expert, just know that when you pick an oil and you feel some intuitive pick, or you're drawn to an oil because you're curious about it, or it smells good, or maybe you heard about it or you read about it in a book, just trust that that actually is the oil that you need in the moment, and it's going to be helpful for you. And so in closing, I have another poem from Young Pueblo that I really love. They were wrong. This pain, this heartache, these harmful habits, they don't last forever. Why? Because the heart is made of water and the mind is made of fire, and the essence of both is change. The will to heal can remove the deepest stains on our spirit. And I just thought that was beautiful and very symbolic of a healing pathway and what it looks like. I really hope that there's been something here today that's been helpful for you in feeling empowered and making changes in your health, and that brings relief and healing for you. I am open for questions, and I also wanted to mention, in case you're watching this on a webinar, that I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook and also Instagram under my name, Kate Kettlewell. And so if you ever have any questions, I'm happy to help guide you in that. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate. Such a powerful story. Even hearing it a second time, I'm always just touched and moved and inspired by you. And I'm sure everybody else on the presentation today felt the same way. So we just have a few more slides and then we'll wrap up our afternoon. If you are new and you do not have a wholesale account, we invite you to join us. That is the very best way to get started. You can go to the next slide. And what you want to do is just simply talk to the person that invited you to this webinar, and they'll help you get going. However, if you found us online, excuse me, or don't have a personal contact yet with doTERRA, please email us at info@essentialwellness.life, and we will help you get set up. And we do have some awesome promos going on right now that do end at the end of the month. So email us today if you want to get started so you can get in on those. And then we will resume our live webinars in January of 2018. So please look for those postings soon. Thanks so much, everybody, and have a great day.